Okay, hi. Hi, everyone. Okay, so I'm starting again. So I'm SABINE ROEMER. I'm a master jeweler, and as everyone can tell, now I'm really bad in computer. So I'm just gonna start all over again, and I'm gonna say welcome to Craft Day, and we're gonna showcase a little bit from the workshop now. So my first steps, what I wanted to show you is how you actually create a ring, for example. And I have this beautiful lizard ring, which curls around the finger, and it's white gold. But how do you actually get here? So first of all, you pick a wax, and depending on the color, they have different hardness. So for this one, because I really wanted to mold it, I picked the blue one. So you kind of drill a hole into here. I did it earlier, but otherwise it's going to take forever. And you kind of cut out the pieces you need, and you shape it slowly into form. So after you created the ring size you needed, you kind of end up with something like this. I'm going to show it very closely. So this is the lizard carved out. And then from this, you can create a mold, basically, and then you cast it in silver. So when you have the one in silver, you can do all the fine tuning and the eyes and the hands. And after I finished and perfected it in silver, I do another mold. And from that mold, I actually go then into gold. And from the gold, I'm going to set little stones on the side, and I put one amethyst in the middle. So I hope you can see this now. So, and just to show you different examples. For example, here, I started with this, and then I cut it out. And then with a drill, kind of slowly cut it into shape. You're starting to round the ring, and then after you round the ring, you kind of have a little shape, and I'm trying to create a leopard here on this side. So I prepared this a little bit, and then after that, you hopefully end up with this. And the same step I've done is for this little camel. And the camel I started actually in green wax because it was softer to kind of really get the texture of the hair. And it's a bit funny, but these tools actually look like from the dentist. So you have different kind of tips here, which actually hollows out like in a triangle shape or into like a round shape. And you can slowly, slowly carve everything away till you have what you require. So, and in the end, you have this beautiful little camel here. And all the jewelry part gets put on afterwards. I'm just going to show you a close-up. And the jewelry is afterwards because of the stones and everything. Because they have sharp corners, I prefer them to add them afterwards. Like all the soft parts and the organic shapes is much nicer to do in wax. But the stones and the diamonds you want to actually put into the metal straight away. So then how do you actually get silver and gold, or how does it arrive with us if it's not wax or lost wax casting? So you can get it into strips and wires in different shapes, or you just get it in this plain sheet. So in this example, it's copper, so it's not gold, but I love copper for how it's breathing, how it changes color, and actually how light it is. So an earring, a big one, which I would like to do in gold, would end up being quite heavy. So I love the size, what I can work with in, for example, this is the copper earring, and it's not heavy. So if you wear it the whole day, it actually doesn't feel like your head falls off. It's got a little So, and this was actually cut out of this. So if you see, now do you see that? Yeah. So this part came from here. And then I did this up, the second earring here. So basically the outline you draw on there, what you like, and then you cut it out, and then you have a flat sheet. And after the flat sheet, you go into like molding it with wires and pliers. So kind of here, I can show you another example. So this was my outline in paper, and from the outline paper, I cut out, put it on the top, I cut it out, and then you can mold the leaf into shape slowly. And that's the same process what happens with this earring. Show you a little closer. And then again, where it comes from. Yeah, and here. The similar technique happens when you have a piece, this is silver, but obviously it comes in gold as well. And what I've created is, I again do the outline on here, cut it out. And after you cut it out, you kind of have this shape of that earring. So again, so from the shape and the idea of cutting it out, you end up with this beautiful earring. And then you can, and this is simple with saw blade, but now take the one that's flat, that it doesn't get caught in the. Now I'll show you a little bit of azure. Azure basically means all those little stones from the front, from the back, they have a little window where that catches the light a little bit better. So in this earring, or in most of my earrings, we drill from the front where we can place the stone onto a seat and we set it. But from the back, before we actually set the stone, I cut a little hole, and from the little hole, you cut a little window from the back, which then actually looks square, which is, I love it because it's very meditative to kind of sit there and cut out the metal from the back, but you have to be very careful to stay within the square and don't cut. I'm going to show you this, and here. So you drill a hole, but then you have a square in the back. So I have this example here. So I'm just going to drill into it. There's a normal burr. And after I drilled the hole, so again, the two saw blades, if you're just tuning in, two saw blades in the jeweler's workshop is the plain straight one, and this one is twisted in itself around that you can actually cut wax, because if you would cut wax with a straight line, that wouldn't work. So I'm going to put this away and I use the straight one. After I put the hole in, which is obviously round hole, I am going to put the saw plate in the middle of it. Can you see? So it's inside now. And the round goes into a square now. So I'm just going to cut this out, and then I'll show you how it works. I prepared a few because otherwise you're going to sit here forever with me. And we only have another 20 minutes. And this technique is called azure. So when you look at jewelry, always make sure that you look from the back as well, that it's beautifully crafted. I find that's, you know, a lot of detail and craftsmanship can go into the back of a jewelry piece as well, not just from the front, that it all looks nice and nicely crafted. And as you can see, that's much more labor intensive. So normally when you just drill holes for the stones and you want to be quick, you just drill the different sizes and then you appear with a round at the back. But I prefer to actually spend some time on there and make it pretty from the back as well. And that's one way of kind of seeing how much time they actually spent on a jewelry piece. So I finished now one window. I'm going to show it to you in a second. So I show it to you. So can you see the first one is a square now? And what I do is I always paint the corner black, that I can see actually where I'm cutting into, that I don't cut into the gold part, which I actually want to keep. And then you have these, which you can put into the dimensions you need. And you can mark them out. And then you cut it exactly only where you want it to be. So that means from one side you have the round drill where you can put the seed for the stone, and on the other side you have the square you want. So from this side you have the round, and from this side you have the square. Show you in the finished piece. So from the front you have the round diamond, and from the back you have all the different sizes of the azure. So azure is to get the daylight in, and this is called pave setting, like cobbled streets, paved streets. So this was this, and then last thing I wanted to show you, these are all engraving tools, which is quite nice to get the different depth into metal. And I created this one piece for Nelson Mandela, and he gave me 2 rocks from Robben Island, which were very special to me. And Morgan Freeman bought one, and the other one I still have. So it's from a rock from Robben Island. And what the next step would be is I have his hand engraved here, and you have the different pieces depending on which tip you need. If you need a square or a triangle or a very flat one, and then you go into the metal and you engrave something away. The same thing I created in the stamp I show you. Yeah, for the Queen. Hope you can see it, but you can see it all really beautifully etched away. And this is called engraving. And obviously, everybody probably knows engraving from just engraving something inside of their rings or having initials on a signet ring, but you can do much more with the engraving part. You can actually create little portraits or symbols or anything like that. And these are created with these kind of tools. So I'll put those back. And I know because I was a bit useless with the internet earlier, so I think there might be some questions. So I just need to see if you have some questions for me. Let me just log in. Do you have any questions? No, I don't see any questions there. Do you cut the grains? So the first question is, do you cut the grains on the front before you sew out the azure on the back? Yes, it's a bit easier for definitely you azure. I come back to that. You know what he's talking about. Azure are these little squares I was just showing you. And normally when you drill the holes for the stones, and sometimes the holes are different sizes, then it's very important to actually drill them from the front. You do a little bit of the grain works. Grain means holding the stones in place. And then you do the azure. So before you set the stones, you kind of just space the stones out to see where you actually end up going with the stones. I think it's quite helpful. Grains, I think at the end, but the holes helps a lot because then obviously you know where to cut. But the grains, I think, is better afterwards. And I think somebody said live stream is not working. So I hope it is working now and you see me. Is there any other questions from here? Schmuck etwas tiefer halten. Here's a German one. So this is, I mean, it's like multitasking here. Okay, so this is the azure. And azure again is called the windows from the back, which I cut out, which you could see here. And yes, I drill the holes, but the grains, no. I do the grains afterwards. Do you have any other questions? Because I think there's going to be another live soon coming. Otherwise, I can just show you how to do the wax modeling again. So the wax, I love Create to do the wax, especially when it's animals and not like square and rigid forms. So for example, the camel here and the lizard, I created in wax first. And what you do is with the wax is you pick first different wax. This is softer than the green one. And then you carve them away slowly with different tools. Here I cut the ring out, for example. So you see step 1, 2, and then hopefully at the end, this leopard ring. Can you, there's another question from Claire. Can you tell us how you got into your career? So I come from Karlsruhe, which is a small town on the outskirts of the Black Forest in Germany. And the fashion was quite dramatic and awful there. So I always wanted to be a fashion designer. But then my grandma, my mom, they sat me down age 15 and said, you know what, we're going to show you how to make patterns and stitching and stuff. And I was like, oh my God, like I think I gave up after 1 year and after one day, and that was not for me. So we had to do a work experience in school for a week. So, and my mom actually said, why don't you try jewelry design? Because we have a lot of old school goldsmiths in our hometown because we're quite close to Pforzheim. You might not know Pforzheim, but it's the gold city in Germany, and all the industry is there, and Chopin's actually coming from there as well, originally. So I started to do this 1 week course with him, and the first day I ended up in the workshop, and I was sitting there, and he said, okay, you might be done by the end of the week. And I said, okay, let me show me the tools, and he put me on the bench. And I was done on the first day with that ring. And I did 6 pieces in 5 days. And that's what I said. That's what I want to do for the rest of my life. Thankfully, my parents were very happy of me like skipping school and starting apprenticeship, which you do first. In England, it's a little bit different, the apprenticeship, but in Germany, it's about 3 to 4 years. And you go, it's a dual system where you go twice a week to school, and the rest you do in the workshops. You're regaining experience straight away. And then I did my master's, 23, and I came to work for Stephen Webster in London, and that's how I ended up here, and I was age 24. The demonstration. Somebody asked if you see the demonstration again. So I think they're all going to be saved. and then upload it again. It's the first year, so I think we're all learning a little bit, but I think so. Everything will be saved and you can go back later and look in the schedule. Anyone else questions? Let me see. Yes, so if I'm working only in gold and diamonds, so yes and no. So for SABINE ROEMER, I work with diamonds and fine materials only, meaning diamonds, gold, but sometimes you have, especially now, you have a lot of titanium, copper, and it's all very interesting because you just don't have the weight. So you can go a bit bigger and you can work in much bigger dimensions than you used to before. So this earring is like a third of the weight and you can kind of really go quite nice and big. So yes and no. So I love to experiment, but it kind of has to work together. Otherwise you can't set or you can't drill enough. So yes, but we're all learning. What was my first piece? My first piece was a ring, which I cut out my initials and doing 5 of them. One for my best friend in Germany, for her, which she got when we were 15, and I think for my cousin and maybe cousin Julia, and they were just initials with 2 stripes on each side. And they were so popular amongst my family, so I ended up doing a lot of them. My favorite piece. The next question is, what is my favorite piece? My favorite piece is a bit tricky because I always say normally it's the next one, because I think, especially as a craftsman or as a master person, you always learn with every piece. Like if I do this camel ring again tomorrow, it will look a little bit different because my hand learned something. So I love saying it's my next piece, but then of course most memorable ones is, you know, when you have a piece at the Oscars that was quite amazing. Morgan Freeman, I did a cuff and we told a story, and it was all African material. So it was white gold from Africa, it was Zambian emeralds from Gemfields, and I carved the prisoner into it because he was nominated for Invictus. So I flew to LA and I went to the nominees dinner with him, and he was wearing this bracelet. And that was a very proud moment, I have to say. And just recently with one of my best friends, Tamara, we created a corset for, and I think, I actually have it on the wall, this one here. So she made this beautiful gown and she asked me to create a gold corset on top of it. And that I think was a really recent, nice, memorable piece. I have a next question. Being trained in Germany, working in the UK, do you see any different approaches how train goldsmiths in Germany and the UK? Yes, sorry, I do. I think the main difference getting trained in Germany is that you are having the system of dual. So meaning you are in the workshop and you're going to a school. So you learn all, I mean, we all train gemologists as well. And all the extra information, what you get in school is quite nice, because I think every workshop is know what they're doing, but there's so much more to learn. And I think the school is picking up on that, especially the gemology and stuff. But I think the biggest difference was for me that in England, you just go to an apprenticeship and you are in one workshop, and in Germany you actually go and see a school as well. And we can do the masters there. So the masters is another extra year or 2 you do after you've been in the trade for 8 years. So it's quite extensive, and you know, like, I mean, you can probably do your doctor in the same time, but I don't see that you can do your masters the same as in Germany or Switzerland. There's another question from, where do you get ideas when you design in new pieces? Do you follow fashion or on your own way? I think, you know, I get that a lot as well, that question, like what inspires me. And I think it's a bit of I think it's everything. I remember walking through New York with a friend of mine, and she was living on that block. And, you know, I walked around and I was like, oh my God, have you seen this like, and they're on the top next to those windows. And she's like, no, my God, I walk every morning here and I never saw it. So I think I take everything in. And obviously fashion is fun and I love it. And, you know, as I said, I have fashion design as a friend. So I think it's very inspirational. And I think you draw from everywhere, but it's architecture, it's people, it's how they dress, it's how they, poetry, nature. I think it comes from everywhere, but I think you just need to soak it up and kind of, you know, everything goes on there and then you kind of create. But I spoke to a friend of mine the other day and she came to visit me in the workshop, and what was quite nice, and she learned a little bit of jewelry making as well. And what was nice that we said sometimes the best is to actually just sit on the bench and let the metal speak to you and kind of see what comes up. I think kind of learning the craft and just playing with stones and metal, the best pieces come actually alive, as opposed to, you know, you plan and you sketch and you sketch and you sketch. I think sometimes you just have to dive in, lock yourself in, turn the music up and kind of just see what happens and what your hands can create. So I think it's my mom. I think my mom's asking me, where's the swan ring? I don't actually know. I have a look if I can see. I might have wax. No, but you can see it on my website. So I think what she's implying is, so when I came to London, I lived in Knightsbridge and I was running around Hyde Park every morning to warm up. And in the end of the Hyde Park, it's called Kensington Gardens, and they are these flower pots, and these flower pots have these beautiful swans on each side. And I was sitting there and sketching them, and, you know, obviously there's swans in the lake as well, and I loved them so much, so I actually created a ring around them. And instead of a flower pot in the middle is this beautiful rose cut, and there's rubies around, and I made it black and with black diamonds on the side, which are all the feathers, and they're highly engraved. So I think that was much fun. So I think she's referring to that, and that's online. And the same was kind of the lost. This, you can carve it slowly into, this is a lizard. And then from the lizard, you go into a mold, which is a rubber mold. And in the rubber mold, you have the negative, you inject the wax goes into a cement block, the wax gets injected out, and then metal goes in, and then you create this. And I think they're going to cut me off in 2 minutes. So if you have any other questions, I'm trying to read them without having a noise here. And if you have other questions, otherwise I can just show you a little bit. I don't know, I think I got disconnected. So this is a hot pen, and it has 4 settings, and you can see it starts smoking now. And I love carving with this. So what you do is you kind of melt the wax away. I hope you kind of can see how it's dripping now. So you can kind of see. So when you melt the wax slowly away, and what is obviously really great with wax is you can create, with this wax pin, you can create the most beautiful little balls. Because obviously that's really hard to kind of cut out with tools. So you just melt them. I'm just going to show you one. You collect the wax and you just drop it and drip it. I mean, it is so fun. And then you can create those little balls. So that's the wax pen is really, really good for. Now I have a next question. Do you have apprentices? Well, I have 2 daughters who wants to play with stones and constantly come to the workshop. One actually grew up in the workshop, poor thing, needed to do her nap here. So unfortunately, I don't have like a trained apprenticeship, but I would love to. And we're looking actually into it. I have a ready-to-wear line. It's called Atelier ROEMER. And we do actually, when we're ready and we are big enough, we want to actually keep an apprentice, because as a master, I can teach other people, and I love doing that. I used to do that, and I would like to get back into the apprenticeship scheme. But if so, yeah, just email me if you're interested, because we are looking out slowly for apprenticeships. I think there's another question. Can I see? Okay, so the next question was to kind of how you go from flat metal into curved metal again. So I'm just going to show you. So normally we, meaning jewelers, buy metal as sheets, as wire, as sheets, and we cut out whatever we want to do with this. So in this case, I wanted to show you this big plate here. And what happened from this big plate is that you can see the outline. So basically you first draw what you want. In that case, it was an orchid, and I cut it out. So it was the famous, it was the favorite flower from the Queen of Sweden, and she loves orchids. So we wanted to create an orchid for her. So I draw the outline of the orchid on here, and then you cut it out with a saw blade. And as you can see, it comes out from here. Yeah, it's exactly the same shape. Obviously, it looks more three-dimensional now. But so when you have this, for example, here it's a leaf. When you have it, you just start bending with these pliers. And it just said me, oh, I have 5 more minutes. See, good. Okay, so you can keep asking away, and I'll show you. I'm happy to show you all the tools and stuff as well. I can show you one fun tool. So let me show you. So this is the lizard in silver, and so I'm just going to polish it for you, and you can see how shiny and nice it's going to be. So I'm putting these on because stuff flies into your face, and it's not nice. So you have, it's called polishing paste, and I'm changing from this drill now into this. You know what? I take the long one. It's easier. Then you can see it better. It's bigger surface. So see, now I'm not going to be black in a second. So first you kind of clean it up a little bit with this polishing paste. And after you've done this, it's going to change the top. This is a matte one. Looks very funny. I'm just going to polish one side that you see the difference, because it's always funny when clients, I show them the process when I'm making a one-of-a-kind piece for them, and they're like, this is my ring, and I was like, yes, don't worry, we're going to get there. And then the last part is then the polishing paste, the red one for silver, and for gold and platinum you use, and most of the time I use orange, because the orange was just, it's more finer. And silver is a really great material. You don't actually, it allows you to have a little bit of mistakes, where in platinum it doesn't allow you any mistakes. Every scratch you see in the next step. So that's why I show it in silver, because otherwise I'm going to be here in hours. So as you can see, it's still quite scruffy, and it still looks black. So there's something called ultrasound. Ultrasonic. I'll show you with this ugly thing here. And then you turn it on. And what it does, it just takes off all the dirt. Next time I need like a 3D arm where you can see everything. And then you can use an old toothbrush as well. Kind of just clean it, and then I'll show you how one side and then it starts. This is the dull part. I didn't polish this one, and this one starts shining now. So, and I think one more question. Why am I wearing those glasses? I'm wearing those glasses because when you drill and when you polish things away, they can fly into your eyes. And when I drill a lot with these things, you actually have to put the hair back as well, because if you get caught one hair and it goes around, it can actually pull it out. And I've seen it happen in workshops before. But this today is a demonstration, so it's not that bad. But it's, yeah, safety. So I think that's it for today. Let me see if there's one more question. You want to see that lizard again? Okay, so it's from the wax. See, this is the wax, and then you carve it out into the shape you want, and from the shape you go into white gold. Okay, I think this is it for now. Thank you for joining me on the first Create Day. I hope I'm going to learn a little bit the login details for next year a little bit better. But it was fun having you and showing you a little bit around. So yes, hope to see you next year again. Okay, all the best. Happy Create Day. Bye.